You know what's bizarre? We've analyzed millennials to death. We've dissected Gen Z like they're some kind of social experiment. Boomers get blamed for everything from the economy to the planet. But there's this entire generation, 65 million people who just exist, barely mentioned, almost invisible. Gen X, born between 1965 and 1980. They're your manager who never talks about their personal life. Your neighbor with a perfectly maintained house who waves but never shares on Facebook. That coworker who's insanely competent but acts like they don't care. And here's what nobody tells you. Gen X has the most misunderstood psychology of any living generation. Not because they're complicated, but because they've engineered themselves to be overlooked. And that's not an accident. It's a survival strategy that started when they were children. Picture this. It's 1978. You're 8 years old. You come home from school to an empty house because both your parents are working, divorcing actually, because Gen X saw the highest divorce rates in American history. No smartphone, no Ring doorbell, no way for anyone to check if you're okay. You let yourself in with a key hanging around your neck. You make yourself a snack. You do your homework alone. And you wait. This wasn't rare. By 1980, nearly 7 million American kids were coming home to empty houses every single day. They called them latchkey kids, an entire generation raising themselves. But here's what's fascinating. This didn't break them, it forged them. A study in the American Journal of Orthopsychiatry found that these kids developed what psychologists call premature self-reliance, the ability to solve problems independently before their brains were developmentally ready for it. Your 8-year-old brain learned, no one's coming to save you. Figure it out yourself. That lesson stuck hard. Today, Gen X has the lowest rates of therapy attendance despite having lived through economic crashes, recessions, and constantly being told they don't matter. Why? Because asking for help feels like admitting failure. They watched their boomer parents promise stability, then divorce at record rates. They watched corporations promise loyalty, then downsize entire departments. Everyone told them, work hard and you'll be fine. But then the economy collapsed. Twice. Psychologists call it defensive pessimism. Gen X calls it being realistic. Hope for the best. Prepare for the worst. Always have a backup plan. That's not cynicism, it's pattern recognition. And let's talk about their relationship with privacy. Gen X grew up in the last analog world. They made mistakes without documentation. They had embarrassing phases that weren't immortalized on Instagram. They learned that not everything needs to be shared. So when they see younger generations broadcasting every meal, every thought, every moment, they're genuinely confused. To Gen X, privacy isn't paranoia, it's power. The less people know about you, the safer you are. The fewer vulnerabilities you expose, the less ammunition anyone has. This comes directly from those latchkey afternoons when they learned you're responsible for your own safety. Here's where Gen X gets really interesting. They have zero loyalty to institutions, but incredible loyalty to competence. They don't care about your title. They care if you can actually do the job. A Gen Xer will respect a two-year-old intern who knows their stuff more than a VP who talks in corporate jargon. They have a problem with bullshit, not with authority. This makes them incredible in a crisis. While everyone else is panicking or waiting for instructions, Gen X is already 3 steps ahead, fixing the problem, expecting zero recognition. They learned this from being the forgotten middle child generation. You don't get attention? Fine. You become so competent they can't ignore you. But here's what's wild. Despite all this independence, Gen X quietly invented collaboration. They created open source software. They built online forums where strangers helped strangers solve problems. They turned DIY into a cultural movement. They're simultaneously the most self-reliant generation and the most quietly collaborative. They'll never ask for help themselves, but they'll stay up until 3 a.m. helping a stranger fix their code on Reddit. This contradiction makes perfect sense when you understand their origin. They know what it's like to be alone, so they make sure others don't have to be. Of course, this self-reliance comes with a cost. Gen X struggles with what psychologists call hyper-independence anxiety, the inability to accept help even when they desperately need it. They're drowning, but still saying, I'm fine. They raise their kids with participation trophies and constant validation because they remember getting neither. They gave their children the emotional support they never had. But sometimes they wonder if they went too far. Because in the Gen X worldview, struggle builds character. And maybe, just maybe, making things too easy creates fragility. The truth is, Gen X might be the last generation that truly remembers what it means to be bored, to figure things out without Google, to fail privately without the internet keeping score. They're not better than other generations, just different, shaped by divorce rates, economic instability, and MTV. They're the bridge generation, the last analog kids, the first digital adults, and bridges don't get much attention. They just do their job, connecting one side to the other, expecting nothing in return. And maybe that's the most Gen X thing of all, being essential while pretending they don't care if anyone notices. If this resonated with you, whether you're Gen X or you finally understand one, hit subscribe. I break down the psychology behind generations, behaviors, and the patterns that shape us. Drop a comment with the most Gen X thing you've ever witnessed. I'll be reading every single one.